Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Erica Cox. Rogan Smith is on vacay. It's her birthday today, apparently. People have those every now and again. At least once a year, I understand. And should we say her age? Because, some people like to play the numbers.
That's assuming you know.
What's that?
That's assuming you know her age.
I know her age. I know I know the range. I know. Can I say the range? It's between 30 and 35. Okay, so I know the range. All right, so so you can go play. You can play box some numbers, put 80 and some fives down there, and you can box
29. How does that work?
Boxing?
With the no, not boxing. Like when you play numbers with somebody's birthday.
I don't know. I'm not
It's a woman's birthday. Or
I'm not a
man
number
and
player.
woman,
I
mine is. I don't know. I don't play numbers.
Do you play numbers, Kendrick?
No.
No. Yeah. What's that? What's with the thing?
No, she was telling me to move my mic, but
Oh, okay,
I'm not
okay,
really technically on right now.
I support the numbers. People. I support people's right to play the numbers, but I have not personally played the. When Kirk Smith, I used to be in the morning. I used to give Kirk Smith a number every now and again.
Yeah. I'm
Then
a little
play it for me.
fascinated by it.
Yeah, I've never won. I don't know if I ever won.
Not enough to go do it, but I just wonder the.
Well, we should go one of these
The
days. We should just go
science.
play numbers once.
Yeah,
We should just
the
go.
science behind it seems interesting.
I don't think it's a science.
Well, it seems like some people
It's-
take it
no,
very
they think they have a science. Okay, but they got no science, man.
Because
They
there's
just
the obits and
they got a
all
whole
this
thing
stuff.
going on, but it's all just superstitious stuff. It's not.
Arbitrary.
Yeah. I don't think there's a. If there was a science, the numbers people would be out of business. Okay, because in the casino they have people who do things like count cards and stuff. They ban them. You know that, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I know.
You-
How
they-
do they identify them? I mean,
They know.
They,
They get on lists. They can tell what people are
Wow.
doing. They've got all kinds of things. It's the surveillance in the casino world is highly technical. You're not even. In fact, the casino people, like operators, aren't even really allowed to know the surveillance people.
Oh,
I mean, it's
I
a whole
see.
other compliance thing. Because there's a lot of room for cheating, and the government's involved because there's taxes involved and all sorts of things. So how are you? Oh, by the way, did I introduce Erica Cox?
Yeah.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm losing my mind then.
That's okay.
So, yeah, that's right, because I said Rokan is going to be on vacation. Listen, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. I spent the last 3 days moving my child, if you can call her that, into her apartment in school. This is not something that 57-year-old people should be doing, even though I hired some people to assist, but there are still things you have to do. So I spent the whole weekend basically being stiff and bad back and muscle relaxers and, on the ground a lot. Because, I got to go on the ground. Once I'm down, I got to stay there for a little while.
It's
what
like
happened,
that,
Kendrick?
right?
I have to assemble something. It ain't no getting up and down. Let me get down. Pass me that. Okay. No, it's not good. It's not good. But it was fun to move her into her place and
Another milestone.
yeah, that's her first place other than a dorm.
Right.
The other thing I want to discuss, and I don't know if I've discussed it before in any detail, but it needs discussion, and that's the ability for things to vanish in a woman's bag.
Oh,
Have we discussed this?
No.
Okay.
But I'm well.
See,
Aware of it.
in a woman's bag, they actually have compartments. Let me see your bag, please, Candy. I want to see your bag. No, I'm not going to look at it. I just want to see your doggone bag. Okay? They have compartments. You notice there's zipped. There's some zippers. There's an area here.
Show him your bag.
There's an area here that has zippers. There's another pouch here.
Just big.
It's the same thing. It's the same. They're universal. They make these with the pouches and the zippered areas and all that. Pouches.
And your point?
Okay? So that when you have a phone, you can slip the phone in the pouch.
Yes.
When you have a wallet, you can slip it in an area, zip it, whatever. What is with this?
That's if you have a one
For
compartment
the
bag.
listeners who can't see,
Okay?
Ed is rummaging through
Rummaging.
the
Men
bag
do not even use the word rummage. Okay?
because they don't have
They don't have to rummage.
They don't have cause.
First of all, what are you carrying? I have to. You want to be equal. See, I'm not going to be sexist, but you want to be equal. Okay? What are you carrying that we do not have to carry?
All sorts of things.
Like, yeah.
You know.
And she's rummaging now. I have a phone. Kendrick, do you have a thing? What do you got? You got your phone? You got a bag? You got a man bag?
A book.
My
Your backpack.
pens,
Well, you're unusual.
Sunglasses.
Sunglasses.
You're an unusual character.
Wipes.
You carry a lot of guys carrying backpacks? Okay, what are they putting in that?
My sunglasses.
What are people carrying around? What's going on? What am I missing out on that you people are carrying around? Are you just like maybe there's a pop-up trip or something that you have to go on?
They're things you
Say
need.
My passport? No, I don't have my passport.
And invariably, what you need, you don't have in your bag at that given moment.
Right. And different trips.
Listen.
require different
I'm
things.
trying to liberate the world, and I know it's marketing. Okay, I don't know what Kendrick Steele is. I'm not going to get into that, but I just know that. And you have similar bags. These are both the same brand, I think, right? Is it? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
But they're
matter.
similar styles.
Yeah,
And the question
they're
the
totes.
question I want to ask is, in all seriousness, if you didn't have that bag, how would your day be
Oh, no, I have
transformed?
my little
Pull the
bag.
microphone up now. You're official now.
Yeah, I mean, you're.
I actually have a smaller bag in my car for when I don't want to tug along the.
Yeah. I'm asking you a
my
que-
little,
if tomorrow, Erica, you woke up and I allowed you to carry your cell phone. This is what you're allowed to carry. What would you be missing out of the bag that you couldn't get along with for the day?
Well, I would need my book.
No. See,
I
this
would
isn't
need
a library.
My notepad.
Right, because we like pens and paper.
No, but why don't you keep that?
Umbrella?
Don't you keep that in the car?
No, it's in my bag.
Okay.
But that probably stems from us women always having to
Having to be
carry stuff for
prepared.
the kids.
Wipes and
wipes and
Little
toys for them
mints.
to entertain and
I
little
like-
snacks and
yeah.
y'all ain't carrying that around. So
You
don't carry
don't.
that
See,
around.
men don't have to think about these things.
No, you
Yeah.
don't.
Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about that, and it's also important for me to talk about how things vanish in the bag. Okay? Because I don't understand how I could hand you something now to hold for me, and that you put it in the bag, and then within 15 minutes, it takes a half hour to find.
It's gone.
Okay?
And everything comes
And it's
out.
and it's just moving, shifting, and I
It
say.
was here somewhere.
I say to women, I say to my wife, I say, does this not annoy you as much as it's annoying me on a daily basis?
I'm guilty of that too.
Do you not annoy yourself? That's
I
what I'm
do.
asking. You don't feel frustration?
Yes, very much so.
Well, why don't you get it together? Why don't you organize
Well,
yourself?
what do you think we should do?
Well, put the things in the doggone compartments. Okay? They're
me too.
compartments.
But that doesn't, always work.
You
Because then
Right.
if you put it in the middle part with the big zipper, then you got to unzip the zipper. And then you got to go in there.
Where do you keep your phone?
I have actually a little slot on the side that I
Okay,
drop it in.
all right.
Because I've had those frustrating moments where the phone,
phone
is
is
ringing,
ringing.
and you can't find it.
Right.
Right.
And for,
But
and
you can hear it.
And see, I don't mind that. If you want to frustrate yourself, that's fine. Knock yourself out. If you want to end up in an asylum, that's up to you. What is a problem is when you're at a function
Yeah.
and the phone rings and you can't find it.
It's embarrassing.
And then, because I'm feeling embarrassed for you now. Okay? All right. So I got that off my chest. I wanted to talk about that. That's a very important thing to me that I've been meaning to
you feel
discuss.
better?
Yes. You
I don't feel
purged.
better because I don't think there's going to be any change.
No.
Okay? But I think it was something that needed to be brought up.
But you know what feels really good? Every
What's that?
now and again, I go through my bag and I clean it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is cathartic.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Okay. Is there any need to keep a 2014 Super Value receipt?
Did you see that in my bag?
No. But there's one. But you all have it. You all have it. So it's not a matter.
I saw some stamps.
No, I didn't see it.
understand.
I didn't see it. But I just know that what's the matter, Kendrick? Kendrick, this happens to you. You see this? What? Would you witness this?
Yeah, man. Everything is in that bag.
Okay, I don't.
Probably clothing and all, man.
We are not in a.
yes.
We're not in a
See?
tax.
Sometimes.
We're not in a tax regime, so you don't need to keep receipts. Okay, and yet there's a 2014 balled up
Yeah.
Super value receipt.
and Starbucks.
Yeah,
And
receipts.
All of it.
Why don't you
So-
just put them in the garbage
there's something that you gotta hold on to a receipt, even
so you can throw it away later?
later. Yes.
When you're
But,
cleaning out.
but it just feels like, okay,
You
I
just
should
need to
keep this
keep it,
because
yes.
something might happen.
Well, let me put something to you, because this is how much I care about you and others of your sex and species. You probably carry around a good 5 pounds of crap on a daily basis, which means that impacts your arm, your shoulder,
You're back.
your back, that you don't need to have. Because when you clean that bag out, I'll bet, it's just so light.
Yes.
By the way, do you also, because you notice I've been doing a lot of analysis about this, can you pull out your purse, your pocketbook, whatever you call that thing? Can you pull it out
wallet?
for me? It's the wallet. It's a big thing like this.
Don't make
Okay.
fun of my
No.
change,
No,
Ed.
actually, this is good. This is actually a good one.
Oh, yes, because I
Because
have receipts.
these are not designed. Let me see. Ah!
I was
Bring
about
me
to
that
say,
one.
Asking
yes,
for the other
I
wallet.
got rid of this one, this kind.
These are not designed to be stretched out this wide. Okay? I mean, come on, ladies. Get
I
it together.
know,
That's
I
2
know.
pounds right there, man.
But listen, I don't have anything in my
Thanks,
wallet.
Tidy.
No, I don't have credit cards. I don't own
Okay,
credit
okay.
cards. And
I
don't-
already, as soon as you open up, I spot some receipts that could go right now.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
But
I
no,
didn't
they
even, just
don't
right
have
there.
to-
See, right there. That section right there. I don't even want to touch it. You see what I'm saying? I know. I'm trying to.
I'll
I'm
look
trying.
for them tonight.
I'm trying to help you all, and I'm saying this in a very non-sexist way. Advance. Okay.
But let
Get
me
past
ask you
it.
something, Ed.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see your wallet.
Okay, so
Let's see how thick this
you
one
have
is.
you have a wallet. What do you do? And men's
you
wallets
sit on
don't
it.
have change.
No, I don't. I keep it in my pocket.
You don't
Right.
have a place for change. So what do you do with change?
Okay. Show off.
What do you do with your change?
I keep it in my pocket, or I put it in the tip thing.
Okay, so you just
You know, like
you're
the
constantly
cha-
getting
the-
rid of change.
Yes, you know,
Well, I live
like
for
for
change.
little charities.
Yeah.
That's why they have them there, so you don't
Well,
have to carry that
that's
around.
not everywhere.
At McDonald's, yeah, everywhere, almost everywhere. I look for it. They almost
really?
always have a little, the gas station, a little thing for not so much here,
I
but
don't
a
go inside the
little
gas
charity thing,
Yeah. Okay.
little humane society, little thing. I drop it in there.
Well, I keep change.
I do.
sometimes,
I
yes.
keep. That's impressive.
Okay.
Yeah,
By
but
the way, I
you're
have
not-
2 wallets.
You're not
Oh.
normal.
Do you know
Ed,
that? I have
so-
2
Tell.
wallets.
Do tell. See, one
I'll
is
tell you
in
why I
your
have 2
bag.
wallets. This is called organization.
Oh,
This is my other
But you
wallet.
see how thick that one is.
No, but this is because this has some travel cash.
That's a way.
But let me tell you, but see, because normally this would be, okay, and the reason
Put them
is
together.
this is my travel wallet.
Okay.
I use this to travel with. This is credit cards,
That's
etc.
already organized.
This is organized for travel.
Okay.
Okay, this is my Nassau wallet.
Okay.
I just came from traveling, that's why I happen to have both. But normally I just have one. Any other questions? I'm trying to help you all
Mr.
advance.
Streamline.
Okay. I'm trying to help you advance, and if any kind of hinting or tipping I can give to people out there about living life in a simplistic manner and eliminating rummaging from your life. Okay, there's easy ways to deal with life other than rummaging. That's all I'm going to say.
So you don't need anything else in your day-to-day activities.
See, when we get back, because we're going to take a break soon, there's a lot of things that people do. I'm not an expert in this. I'm just throwing this out. It's a lark. We're having fun. But there are a lot of things that people do that just complicate their lives. I don't shop. I don't buy things because you don't need it. I buy clothes maybe twice a year.
Okay.
Okay? And mostly that's underwear. Okay? I don't just buy things just to buy.
Someone asked me to ask you, what about the fanny pack?
The fanny pack? I used to have a fanny pack. I used to have one of them when I travel. And who was that who asked you that, by the way? Said, do I know the person?
Yes, you do.
You don't wear.
No, when I would travel, I used to carry that a lot.
Okay.
But I don't travel that no more. Just
Around your waist,
The
Ed?
thing break.
Or around your shoulder?
No, on the base.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
front
yeah,
or
yeah,
back?
front. I don't care. I don't
They
care.
don't really. They don't really wear those anymore.
No, but the only reason I stopped wearing it is because the strap break.
Oh, Ed.
Oh, goodness.
All right,
that
we're
made
going to be
my
back in a
tongue
couple
hurt.
minutes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields. Now that we've resolved the differences of men and women and rummaging, we will get on to more serious things just briefly before we talk to Candy. But Erica, I hope that See, there are extremes. Javon, sit down. There are extremes, okay? But there are also certain things you recognize, like, why would you? This is a fact.
Okay.
And I know that at least 3 people, that's all I'm aiming for, okay? At least 3 people are going to ask themselves, why do I have the 2009 receipt? That's what they're going to ask themselves right now as we're speaking. 2009? Yeah, I love it. Okay, you go in there. Because, by the way, the 2009 receipt, the ink is faded. You don't even know it's you only the super value part because that's a dark part. You know the super value logo,
with the
V.
trolley.
Yeah, the trolley. That's
Yeah.
dark, but everything else is faded out. Okay, okay. And the fact that I even know that is sad. It's a sad thing. Okay, so those 3 people. Forget the rest of you folks out there. You know the thousands who want to classify me as being extreme. Those 3 people are all I'm trying to appeal to, and maybe later on in life, those 3 people will appeal to another 3. And sooner or later, you'll be receipt free.
It will be bagless.
No, you'll be light bag.
Light bag.
And maybe smaller. Because that's the other thing, and we'll get into that another time, Kendrick, because now they're carrying around trunks.
Trunks.
It's not just a bag anymore. It's a trunk.
Where?
You know what I
I've
mean?
never
It's
seen-
these these big ass bags.
Yeah.
The bag is
Yeah,
big.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are big.
where?
And the bigger the bag, the more stuff
The
you,
more
you
stuff.
put in it. Right?
Indeed. You find it. You
Are you-
find you can.
Do you have building
find something
supplies in there now? I mean, what's, you
Fill
have to, in case we have to build a house.
It's
You never know.
it is
never
out
know.
of control.
It is
though.
out of control, but it's marketing. See, this is what I want. You know, we've said we would come back and talk about simplifying your life, right? About what is it that you're buying that you need versus that you want? Because I assume that no one thought about the big bag until they saw someone with the big bag. So now everyone has a big bag. We were doing perfectly well without carrying shopping bag size bags around for many, many years.
Well, I bought this big bag
That's
because
not
it
big.
needed to house my laptop.
But that's not big. I'm
I mean,
talking
it's
about the
big.
big set.
Oh,
You know the bags I mean, right, Erica?
Yeah.
They're at least 3 feet long. They're big.
that just makes my back hurt.
Yeah. Well, they
I
feel the
have
need to
no-
carry that.
I have
And then
back
and then a
issues.
lot of women, and this is what really throws me off. They have 2 bags.
2 bags.
He's tickled.
You've never seen that?
I
They got a
never-
little bag,
like
and then
the
they got a
little-
bag on the thing. Huh?
Right.
They have 2
But
bags.
those are lawyers and things, right?
No, I'm not
And
talking about
teachers
professional bags. I'm
and-
talking.
oh.
They just got so much
that?
stuff. They need 2 bags.
No, man. That's probably their little lunch bag or something.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I've seen it. You've seen the 2 bags, right? Yeah. They can't help them. So because you have all these chemicals that you
they're
have to
very
carry,
organized,
with
you know.
makeup and all that kind of stuff. And I'm opposed to makeup, by the way.
I'm not.
Oh, no,
you're looking
no.
at 2 people who don't
So,
wear
right,
makeup.
so you don't need a whole system every day
Yeah.
to apply. But anyway, that's enough of that. Hi, Candy. We didn't even talk about the Trumps today, Kendrick. That's a whole other week. You want to talk about the Trumpster? Hey,
Talk
we'll
about
talk.
the
We'll talk.
Trumpster.
Well, Candy,
No,
can
you
we? We'll
can.
eat some of Candy's time. We'll take.
Yes,
we'll give us some more.
we're just going to have a discussion
Yeah.
today. It's no
Oh no. Okay.
Are you afraid that he could win? Is
I'm
there a possibility? I got to
I'm
ask that
still
all the time.
afraid. I'm still afraid. I think that he's down but not out.
Well, what's the possibility? I mean, I don't.
No, I think we should not underestimate.
I think there are a lot
of him
racist
buying his
people.
way to the.
Yeah, I do.
First of all, I think we're all racist, or everyone, to some extent. And when it comes to picking teams, you usually go with your team.
What do you mean?
Well, let me tell you. Let me say something. So we can be very candid. We offer ourselves as being candid, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with color. It has to do with your team. So one day, we're going to wake up, and this is some of this kind of reared its ugly head in the referendum, and we're going to hear someone who is running for office, for high office, with a French-sounding surname. And a lot of people will freak out. You can't call it racism if you're going on the, because it's black on black, right? But it'll be certainly some kind of ism because it's not us. It's a different team, okay? And this is what's happening in the United States. You've heard of this thing, the alt-right?
Yes.
what they're proposing, and I kind of see it and I get it, because it's not like the overt KKK type, we don't like the niggers type thing, but it's kind of we like us.
Right.
Okay? We don't mind anything else, but we need to protect us. And what is happening is, because the cultural diversity is changing swiftly in the United States, that team is feeling threatened. The alt-right people. And I see that I feel that when someone goes into the polls, they're going to have to make a decision. Am I going with them or am I going with us? That's where I feel there's a lot of possible undercover type.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think you're right. I don't think we should look at the polls too closely, because I think when you get into that voting booth, I think you could say, okay, well, I rather stick with what I know, or this is what I secretly want, but I'm afraid to
Announce it.
Publicly.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that happened. I know that happens.
Right.
I told you about the crew with the 5 and the 3.
What crew with the 5 and the 3?
So a particular group of people I know were saying they were going to vote for a particular question.
Okay.
And there were, let's say, I'm going to use a number because I don't want to, point out anyone. And let's just say there were 9 people in this household, and they were going to vote yes.
Right. Everyone said they were going to vote yes.
Everyone said they were going to vote yes. And they did it under the, I suppose, feeling that when they went to that polling division, 18 people would have voted yes.
Right.
Unfortunately, only 4 voted yes in that polling division.
So they were out.
So 5 people. You see what I'm saying? So this is what happens.
But the situation in the States is not a laughing matter.
No,
I
it's
mean,
not. It's very serious. Very serious
But
stuff.
I'm still nervous.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's a clear shot for Hillary Clinton.
No.
I think she's got her own set of issues, unfortunately.
If it was Bernie Sanders, he would have won hands down.
I think if it was anyone other than Trump, they would win hands down,
No, anyone other than Hillary.
Right.
And anyone other than Trump would have won hands down against
Against
Hillary.
yes.
That's how screwed up it is.
Yes.
Anyway, that's enough of that. Candy, how are you?
Ed,
What's going down?
I'm good on this rainy.
You have a gold phone now, I see.
No, I've always had
That
this.
was the one that's broken?
Yeah.
Okay,
The
it came
screen
back?
that. Yeah, it was just
Okay.
a matter of a little,
Adjustment.
adjustment, and then now I put a case on it.
Okay.
So hopefully they won't have any more screen mishaps.
Smashes. Okay. So tell us, what are we talking about today?
Well, today is just an open discussion.
I know we have been open discussing, yes.
No, just an open discussion, because it's really something that I was trying to, kind of talk my way through. Not talk my way through, but to talk about it, try to get to the bottom of it, or try to just understand it. And it came from the video that I would have done on Tide Goat last week, where we were talking about validating your partner in whatever sense, validating the feelings, thoughts, and just the need for validation. Humans, we need validation, we need acceptance, right? But I was figuring, I wanted to get to the bottom of, really, do we really need this validation from not only others, but how much of it do we need from our partner and other people? Why is it that I need you to tell me that my thoughts and my feelings are okay, and once you accept it, then okay, then we're good. You can understand it, you can try to understand it, but this whole notion of validating somebody or having other people validate you, I have a problem with.
Right. Well, I guess that's
So that's why I want to
too,
talk
right?
about. Is it confidence? Is it insecurity? Is it?
Yeah, I think that's where the need for validation comes from in some respect. And that could be in different areas of your life. But it makes you feel like, okay, well, that's okay, I'm okay, or I'm good enough. As kind of wrong as that sounds, to be looking to someone else or something else to make you feel like you're good enough. But I think it's a kind of messed up thing about human nature.
Where did that begin? Like, where did this like acceptance of that we need to be accepted? Where did that stem from? Like,
Okay, so
I know you were
saw
looking
me
for
looking,
a quote.
Yeah, no.
As
I
soon
was
as he
looking for
opened that
something.
book.
I was looking for something because we had discussed this kind of before, under the context of fear. Okay, that almost everything that we do in life is driven by either an irrational fear or a fear that's rational. So a rational fear would be like running from a lion.
Right.
That's rational, okay? But irrational fears have to do a lot with how we feel other people are judging us, okay? Right. So because we used up a lot of your time, we're going to go to news, and then we're going to come back and we'll talk about this fear thing, all right? Yes, we have the theme. So we were talking before we went on the break, and I just want to say our guests this afternoon are going to be Brett Lashley, and he's with the Office of the Prime Minister, program manager with that National Development Plan, and Javon Moss, who is the executive director of the Downtown Nassau Partnership. I will enter my disclosures later with regard to both gentlemen. We were talking with Candy, and this whole, kind of a loose theme here today about validation in relationships. But, everyone wants, I guess life is made of relationships, whether it's work or whatever, and everyone wants validation for what they do. But is it so much that they want validation as opposed to they don't want to be not recognized?
Or they just want appreciation.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it's a fine line between getting a trophy every day.
Like, let me get a,
pat on my back. It's a fine line between getting the pat on the back every day as opposed to when you focused on the negative side, as if there's nothing good,
I guess my thing is why do we have a problem with being okay with just patting ourselves on our backs? Like us being okay with what we've done and the work that we've done, and why does the work have to be accepted and I'm pat on the back by you?
But you see, the thing is, and this has to do with all the conversations you and I and Rogan and Erica and Ken have. I think that one of the mistakes that these things, the subjects we talk about, is that we try to clump everything in one basket. The reality is there are people out there who are serial killers. People are wired differently. And this is, and I think that we tend to try to find this formula that should fit everyone, and it just doesn't work that way. And that's where, so if you're in a relationship, it's probably what you need to do is to understand your partner so that you can facilitate, if that's the word, what their needs are, if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, you just walk away.
Well, yeah, I'm just always interested to know where this sense of acceptance and I need other people to make me feel good. Like we don't take the responsibility for ourselves. It's like
But that could be environmental. Like if you were growing up, if your father never was always saying you're no good or something like that. I mean, or maybe your father said you're good all the time. There's so many factors involved with that, right?
Yeah, it depends on your history.
Yeah. I mean, if we could figure that out, we'd probably be billionaires.
Yeah, but I mean, that is
in
whether you got that or you didn't get that. That it is still prevalent in any type of relationship. I mean, whether you were berated or even if you were praised, you are going to want that in a relationship. Because you're already used to the praise, and then okay, well, I've been berated and I need the praise.
So how do you reverse
it? This is why I'm just saying this is an open discussion. I don't know. Like I'm in it. I deal with it too. I'm just asking, like, why is it that we, because there's a fine line with trying to be understood and just being acknowledged, I guess, that we exist, that we have some value to your life. But in terms of you validating who I am and the way I feel and my
look at the
thoughts
relationship between your child and you, for instance, right? Do you want your child to go through life without saying, I love you, mommy. Okay, that's a degree of validation. There are people I know, for instance, who have autistic children, right?
Let's
Who-
not confuse
No, no.
validation. That's not validation.
Well, it's a
That's
sort of
not
validation. It's a sort of validation in that if you have a child, let me tell you what I mean by that. I know people who have autistic children, okay, and their child never has shown love to them, like a hug,
Right.
just because of the nature of the disease, right, or the affliction. And this is a problem. This is a big problem for a lot because the working normal, if you want to say, human mind expects to get a hug or some sort of affection from the child. That isn't happening with that child for that reason. But that then freaks the parent out because their natural inclination is to get that. So that's a form of validation that they can't get. So I think we're all craving. It's like acknowledgement, right? That's what it is.
Is it always validation or is it encouragement?
Or acknowledgement of something.
Right. So is it because validation almost sounds like a cheerleading squad or something like that?
Right. Now, I think we lump a lot of things into validation.
Validation,
Whether,
right.
whether you're going through some trial or tribulation, you want support, not necessarily validation.
Right.
Or, some emotional thing that you're going through. You don't want to be, what is the word that I'm looking for?
I don't know. I don't have telepathy. But
You want your partner to not necessarily
You want empathy or
right empathy or just understand or accept this is where I'm at.
But
I don't need you to agree with me.
Right. But the thing is, and now there are people who don't have any of those things, and we call them sociopaths. So it's a kind of a weird mix because if you don't have people who have empathy or who want love or who care about love or who care about giving love or really care about no one else,
or care about what other people
feel,
think,
or how they feel, we call them a sociopath.
Right.
So I just think that we all crave certain things. That it is a very one of the things that I think is smart though, or what we're doing is we're at least talking about it so that you could come and say, well, why? Because maybe it's a human emotion, or why? Because that's how Ed is, or why? That's how Erica is. But it isn't something that maybe can universally be solved. And maybe that's what the problem is, that we think all of these things can be universally solved.
Yeah, sometimes I think you're simplifying it,
Well, I don't know.
oversimplifying it for me.
Well, maybe I'm oversimplifying it for you, but the reality
And
is
that's why I
simple,
said for me. I can't
It-
speak to the listeners.
I don't think there's any one. I think there's a million people, trillions of people. That's not trillions. We only have,
we
7
don't.
billion,
Yes.
right? Okay. See, I came back to reality.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. There are billions of people, and there are billions of people with different needs. There are people who have to walk miles for water. Their expectation is going to be a lot different from me turning on the tap. So if I just go to them, well,
They
why
might
can't you
wanna
just get
be-
some water? They'll get a freak out. What do you mean? I got to walk, So, okay. So there's circumstantial differences that we have to deal with, Candy. That's how I simplify it.
And you might need certain things at different points in your life than than others. Others you might be like, nope, this is good, I'm good, I'm feeling confident. And other times you do need that pat on the back to kind of get you through the day. I don't think it says anything less about you.
But let me ask you a question. You said that I'm simplifying it. Let me throw another thing at you then.
Oh, dear.
Maybe we are complicating things too much. How about that? Think about it. Okay. You don't think so?
I mean, possibly. I mean, we complicate a whole bunch of things. I mean, look at the society we live in now.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, things can get, very complicated. And that's why I'm saying, that's why I want to take it back. Like, when did this start? Like, why did this even begin? Why, this...
Well, we don't know when it began because we weren't there, as George Bush would say.
Yeah, we weren't here for a lot of things, but
No,
we
you know what I'm saying? In history, we'll all be
we know
dead.
scientifically how things happen.
But I imagine it started from the creation of
Exactly.
human emotions.
Exactly.
I mean,
I think so,
I don't
yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
do.
Oh yeah.
Oh, from the creation of human emotions.
Well, from when we
When
were
was-
created, from when
from when we were
started.
created.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
do.
think about this. You know, I'm not a big believer in the thing,
You
but
think
in the
the
Bible.
Croods was thinking
But you
about
remember
that?
your boy Adam? What's his name? Cain. He didn't like the way that he was being treated by Adam and Eve, so he knocked off your boy. Say again? Yeah. So-
That's
okay.
offline.
Yeah, but okay. But he did. His thing was envy. He didn't like the way that he was treated by Adam and Eve. He felt that Abel was the favorite son, and that he wasn't getting the right kind of props,
Exactly. Acknowledgement.
acknowledgement. So
Anyway,
he knocked
I
off
can't
your
say some
boy.
things on this radio.
Yeah, don't say it.
Because that's
Yeah, well, but I'm just saying that's but maybe
That's an example.
That's an example. That's all. Well, listen, we've got
that
to run.
wouldn't have been my example.
That would have been your example. All right. Well, listen, we got to run, but you'll be back here next week on Monday.
Yes.
Okay. By the way, happy birthday to Rogan. Did we say that?
Rogie!
No, we were
I didn't
talking
say
about
that.
it offline.
Yeah, I didn't say that. So happy birthday to Rogan. We did say it because
Yeah,
we said
you-
30
no.
to 35.
No,
yeah,
we
but we
didn't.
didn't say happy birthday.
say
We
happy
just said
okay.
it was her birthday.
So can we're going to sing?
Collectively say happy birthday.
Yeah.
Let's
No.
collectively say happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy,
Happy birthday,
Rogan. Because you know she's listening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Kendrick Williams on our board. Erica Wells Cox is our guest co-host today. Got to throw out some props to the sponsors. I want to throw out to Wendy's. Got to throw out one to Bahama Grill. You know where that is. That's on West Bay. Get some good ribs there. Coca-Cola. And Javon, you know I like a nice juicy Coke every now and again. Commonwealth Brewery, which of course Heineken. Insurance Management, Island Luck. Subway. You know, I forgot. I got a Subway sandwich in the airport. And then I wanted to take it on the plane. I forgot to take it out of the bag. It vanished in the bag. Okay? Okay? So it did. I swear. The bag, yeah. Summer Palace, Sunshine Insurance, Bristol Wines and Spirits, Superwash. We got Roman Meal Bread, National Fencing, and Scottdale Bedding, ADR Woodlawn Gardens, Cable Bahamas, Rev Bahamas. We'll talk more about them. They're coming up in the future. And just want to thank all of our wonderful sponsors, man. You know, they've been good to us. Our guests this evening are Brett Lashley, who is of the Office of the Prime Minister Program Director. I think that's the title. Program Manager. And Javon Moss, Executive Director of the Downtown Nassau Partnership. I must disclose, like what they would do on NBC, these gentlemen are known to me. Brett Lashley happens to be my nephew, and Javon Moss, well, I just despise him. He is the executive director of the Downtown National Partnership, of which I'm the managing director. I always thought it would be funny to interview you. You know, it's kind of weird. It's a weird thing. It's weirder to interview you than to interview Brett. Yeah, because you know I work with you every day. But we're here to talk about I should say downtown Nassau so much. Javon is downtown, but the city of Nassau and the revitalization of city of Nassau. And you know, I don't know if you read the post that I put on the Facebooks, and it was more of a personal thing, and listen, swing this around a little bit more so I can see Erica because it's kind of weird not seeing her. So you can, just swing that around some more. So you know, Nassau, none of you folks, Kendrick is probably the next oldest to me. Remember, literally I lived on the Fort Hill, and everything that we did in life was downtown, the city of Nassau. GR Sweetings was downtown. All of these shops like the Carousel that don't even exist anymore, Stop and Shop, the Fish Market, Nassau Shop, which is now John Bull, which is now Bacardi, Dad, and all of your shopping. The post office was actually in the Senate building. The Straw Market was by where Rawson Square is now, by Scotia Bank. Royal Bank was, I think, the only bank at the time. So this was the marketplace. Churches, everything. I could walk to everything that I needed to get. School, church, everything. With the dawn of the middle class and the rise of the middle class, people start to spread out. Okay, and as a result of that, you had strip malls, et cetera, shopping malls, and the cruise ship business is really what kept Nassau, downtown Nassau, alive because of the T-shirt shops and jewelry shops, et cetera. Now we're trying to like most cities, and this is not an anomaly to the Bahamas. Most cities have died. Most downtowns have died because of the same sprawl, and they are now making an attempt to come back. So I'm going to ask the gentleman here today, how do we go about, and let's include, as we know as a city, I think, Mr. Lashley, if you would tell me, that is defined by what boundary, from your perspective, from the ID. And by the way, say where the Urban Lab project and all that.
So my name is Brett Lashley. I work in the Office of the Prime Minister in the Development and Planning Unit. We work on 3 long-term planning initiatives that are all funded by the Inter-American Development Bank. We have a national development plan, Vision 2040, which is kind of your macro look at development for the next 25 years, looking at economic development, human capital, infrastructure, and governance. Then we have 2 micro-level projects. The Andros Sustainable Development Master Plan is our first kind of crack at island-specific master planning, family island development. And then we're also working on the Sustainable Nassau Plan that's funded through the IDB's Emerging and Sustainable Cities program that's now active in about 75 cities throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. One of the things we recently completed was the Urban Design Lab, which looks specifically at how do we make kind of short, quick win fixes when we're talking about urban design and the functionality of the city that can improve the lives of residents of Nassau.
And specifically, that urban lab deals with the boundary that goes where, from Wolf Road?
So we looked at a few different boundaries. The kind of historic boundary for Nassau that we found really only ran from about Nassau Street on the west, Mackey Street on the east, and basically Shirley Street was the south.
Only Shirley Street?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, it intersects. PMH is the kind of furthest south. That traditional boundary of Nassau went. What we looked at for our definition of the city, we expanded that. Think of basically everything north of the highway, your East of S Highway, Independence, going as far west as, I guess that's Prospect Ridge.
Prospect Ridge, yeah.
And then on the east, I believe we went
Village Road.
Village Road, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I mean, and downtown, Javon, downtown Nassau, its boundaries go where? From Chippingham to Montague, right?
From Chippingham to Montague.
And how far back? Like, is it Cockburn or Cockburn? I can never. What is it?
The street right by St. Agnes.
St. Agnes Street. COBHUR, Cockburn or whatever. Yeah.
Cockburn.
Spelled Cockburn, but pronounced Cockburn, right? Because I guess people are, uncomfortable with that one. All right. So that it would be that southern boundary, and then kind of, go all the way to I guess. Along to Village, I guess also the Village Road, Montague. So, and by the way, I just want to get some groundwork out of the way. The Nassau Downtown Revitalization Act, does that cover those boundaries as well?
City of Nassau Revitalization Act covers those boundaries.
No, because I want to be clear, because I don't want to give misleading information, because there's duty-free.
I think it goes as far as Wolf.
Yeah, we need to check that, because there are duty-free implications there. Because I know we were concerned, we didn't go in the middle of the roads, maybe just down the main roads, but certainly Shirley Street, Bay Street. If you were building in that area, refurbishing in that area, there are duty-free concessions, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. And that's one thing they highlight every budget. They renew that every budget. So here's where we want to talk. A lot of people, as they drive down, first of all, their view of Nassau, the city of Nassau, is Bay Street. And that's a misnomer, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So what they see is basically the dereliction, especially now, east of East Street. There have been improvements downtown in areas west of that part, but they see a dereliction east of East Street, and they think downtown is screwed up because that looks terrible. but you're interested going back all the way to the highway. Now, tell me, Brett, how do we, in your words, make quick fixes for what we see? Because let's not pander. There's some problems south of Shirley Street.
Yeah. One of the quickest things we could do is just clean the place up. Derelict vehicles, abandoned vehicles,
Homes.
Abandoned homes. But definitely the vehicles are much easier to start. Clean up empty lots. A lot of them are overgrown. With the Urban Design Lab, COB students, there was an exchange program with COB and the University of Technology of Vienna. So students from the University of Technology of Vienna in Austria.
Okay.
We brought some students from Austria.
Yeah.
Who walked throughout Gradstad, Maidstone, and downtown with COB students, spoke with residents, just looked at what they saw and thought of things they could fix. One of the things they came up with were there are so many empty lots. What could you do with an empty lot? You could make a proper bus stop. Rather than the bus stopping, every 5 feet, if we just put temporary shelters, they don't even have to be permanent. Fix up the lot, keep it clean, put a shelter on it. People can stop there and wait for the bus. If you have inclement weather, they have shelter. Right. Another thing, just put a gathering place. People like to get together, play dominoes. People like to get together, hang out. Put picnic tables, benches, have a place for people to sit in their community, chill out. You could put temporary kind of vendor stalls. So you have a lot of people already selling fruits and all these things on the side of the road. Why not create a proper structure that is mobile? So if you do want to move it, you could move it for something else to go in the space. So those are some of the quick wins we think about.
Now, they're quick wins, but how quickly will the quick wins be implemented? Because I think we have a problem with the word quick. Okay. Is this something that people could say, okay, you know what? We've got another study on the table. We've got 3 studies. We've got 4 studies. When are we going to implement some of the things that these studies say?
I think sooner rather than later, which I'm pretty optimistic about. So we've, about a few weeks ago, we did a walkabout in Mason's edition with Vola and some people from the Saxons. They're already doing some things. And I think what people have to realize is you can't wait on government to do everything. You need community associations, community groups, whether it's school groups, whether it's COB, to take the lead and get some of these things done. Government will kind of catch up when they can. But that's what we're trying to encourage, is identifying other groups to take the lead and let government catch up.
Is that something that the plan sort of takes into account and has a strategy to encourage or develop?
Yeah, so what will kind of result out of all of these studies and projects we're doing right now, there will be an action plan for Nassau. The action plan will lay out kind of your short, medium, and long-term investments that can be done, identify who should lead them, give an idea of the cost to make these things happen. And then our role and, I guess the IDB's role would be to kind of follow up and get some of these things to happen.
Before we get to Javon, I want to ask you one other question, because this thing about people doing things, this is where if you just dump something in a community, then there's no ownership, there's no caring about it, and they don't take care of it. Whereas if you obviously find a way to get those folks in that community to be engaged in it and to take ownership of it, then it's theirs. But the question I want to ask then is, where does the lack of, say, local government or town councils or community councils, there's a void, because essentially there is no organized grouping of community other than at the central level.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes Nassau and a few other cities in the region unique, is we lack a city management or city governance structure, and that really complicates getting things done. Because it's easy for agency A to say, well, that's not our responsibility, that's Ministry B's responsibility, and things get tossed around, things kind of.
I mean, having the federal government, and I'm just going to use an analogy of the federal government being our central government, being worried about putting up a fruits vendor's place is absurd. So let's shift to Javon for a second. Javon manages day-to-day the Downtown Nassau Partnership. And if there's one kind of example that we could use that speaks to what Brett is talking about with stakeholders being engaged in the process, it's the Downtown Nassau Partnership. Because one, there's funding from a private sector source, and two, there is this interest by the stakeholders to make changes. And just, I'd like you, for the sake of, because I don't think a lot of people recognize this, Javon, is give a short list of things that, say, in the last 3 or 4 years have been accomplished downtown.
Just a short list of some of the accomplishments that the Downtown Nassau Partnership has spearheaded as a private-public sector partnership includes the pedestrianization of what we now call Marlborough Place, which is the corridor between where Pirates Museum is, Pompey Square, which is, I think, one of our landmark achievements. And one of the things that's important to recognize with Pompey Square is not only did we create it, but we continue to manage events and programming and make sure it's maintained. And at the time, we responded to one of the major concerns in downtown, which was there isn't enough public bathroom facilities. There wasn't enough spaces to host great events. And really right now it's also become the venue for pop-up markets, which is a huge thing that's continuing to happen around the world. So those are some of the quick things that we've done. In addition to that, we've added a ton of greening, and we've changed out all of the benches and garbage bins in downtown. So we're hoping to make the feel of downtown better. The sidewalks, we continue to manage and maintain those. And as you would recall, back in the day, we had a mixed match of all kinds of things happening with the sidewalks. Now they're uniform, they're kept clean. We're always removing gum and debris and all that stuff from the sidewalk. So we're improving how our downtown feel and appears. We're always responding to some of the complaints that there's not enough parking in downtown, and we ran for quite a while a temporary short-term parking lot until somebody purchased the property that the parking lot was on, and they're beginning to do some other things. We're excited about the huge parking garage that's now in the heart of downtown that will, people can't say anymore there's no parking in downtown, because in a couple of weeks there's going to be an additional, I think, 900 spots. All of that stuff, we continue to engage our stakeholders, the businesses, the property owners. We've had quite a few events. We're working on some new initiatives that will hopefully prompt and improve nightlife and weekend activity in downtown. So we've been doing a lot of what the Central Nassau Urban Regeneration Plan kind of suggests, where a lot of it is no longer on the government to really have to worry about. Downtown Nassau Partnership, we find issues that we feel are important to not only our property owners and businesses, but our locals who continue to look for great opportunity to, enjoy our city. And so we respond to those things and figure out how to get it, not from just a plan point of view, but really work through executing those plans and making sure that whatever we do, it's sustained. And I want to be able to, announce that right now we've tested out a solar program for street lighting. So there's going to be a lot more light in downtown, because a major complaint, especially for women walking through downtown, is that it feels unsafe, especially at nighttime. And so a lot of the side streets, a lot of the main corridors will have
And by the way,
lights in the weeks.
I got to interrupt. One of the things that is very important to note downtown, this is just a side thing, is that it is probably one of the safest places that you could be. In terms of the level of crime, et cetera, it is extremely low compared to other areas, other pockets. There's a lot of police presence. There's just not a lot of crime happening downtown. That's as simple as that. There's also, we're going to be looking, I know, I'm stepping in here, of course, things like the entertainment element that I think is going to come up next. And I think there's going to be some refurbishment to another landmark that we won't talk about right now. But, Seka?
What about the area east of East Street that you mentioned before. Are there plans to extend that? I mean, I know there might be issues related to the owners of those buildings and what they may be willing or are not willing to do.
It's interesting that you would ask that question, because that is probably the number one question people ask me when I say I work for the city or I'm part of the team that's revitalizing downtown. What's happening east of East Street? One of the things that you will hear about all the time is this waterfront development or a boardwalk. Our team, headed by Ed and the executives of our committee, has continued to have great dialogue, open dialogue with property owners east of East Street, and I think we're very confident that they too want to see our downtown develop. And we've done a ton of work. We've engaged the government as much as possible with what's next, because they've created plans. We too have had to engage consultants to make sure that we create a plan that's not just responding to our need now. Because when you work from a city planning point of view, you don't work just on what we need to respond to currently. We need to make sure that whatever we put in takes into consideration what's going to happen generations after us.
The biggest thing with downtown, Erica, is that you hear this term all the time, a living city. And again, we're kind of commingling downtown with the city of Nassau, because we think of downtown as Bay Street. Let's face it. We don't even think of it as Shirley Street. Bay Street. But the reality is that there has to be a catalyst from which things will emulate, right? Not emulate. Will take off, spin off from. So when you talk about a living city, the first thing, the implication that's given, guys, is that people have to live in the city. Okay, that is why downtown or the city of Nassau was successful before, because everyone lived in the city of Nassau. Everyone lived within a range from Wolf Road, Nassau Street, Mackey Street, if you will, and could walk to everything. Okay, now that is not the case. Okay, there's more of a living city on Carmichael Road than in downtown, simply because people live and work in the area. Wow. So they've got to bring residential back to downtown.
One of the things too that we learned a lot from our International Downtown Association partners is that we could discuss the mall phenomenon and the fact that right now we have malls in the middle of residential communities, and so the desire for somebody to come to downtown has been diminished a lot, because a lot of the things that are available in downtown are also available at Harbor Bay, at Mall at Marathon, at Southwest Plaza and Carmichael. And so we have to make sure that as we improve our city, we need to make sure the offerings are unique, so that it allows people to come down for unique experience.
But you see, again, I go back, this is where the catch-22 is. We live in an environment where people don't necessarily come to somewhere as opposed to things come to them. Mm-hmm. So in order for downtown to develop, people have to live downtown. And the services that they need will then come to them.
We'll have to be there.
How is that being addressed then?
This is the issue of the east of East Street.
Right. So
a huge part of east of East Street is certainly residential.
And I know these are not questions you might have answers to, but will it be affordable housing?
Well,
just an average professional.
Well, first of all, and that's an excellent point, because the point of just providing housing for, say, non-Bahamians, to buy $1 million condos is although it'll create the economic activity you want, it's not ideal, right? But the reality is, first of all, because there's duty-free concessioning, that means that the cost of construction is already going to be cheaper. So that those condominiums should be as expensive, for instance, as, say, homes that are being created like in places like Venetian West, because of the duty-free concessions on them, right? But it also spreads. So while a condominium on the waterfront might be $300,000, that doesn't mean that housing doesn't extend to, say, Collins Avenue or Hawkins Hill. I mean, we don't think these possibilities, or East Street or the Fort Hill or Mason's Addition, or, that now become more. Virginia Street, to me, Virginia Street, for instance, is a classic example, okay? if you ever driven around that area, and most people just drive through, but if Dorchester Street and all those areas, these are places that can be rebuilt. Hospital Lane by the National Art Gallery. That can be beautiful little communities that can be built into artisan enclaves and all sorts of things that people will live and work.
But
And West Street, you see?
There's also that, though, Ed. What you're referring to, I think, is this perception that we have of those being not so great areas.
Now.
Right, exactly. And then having the vision to say, okay, this is what we can create to get young professionals interested in living and redeveloping or being a part of that redevelopment. And it's also about, I think, planning properly. So if you have schools, if you have parks, if you have activities, because I mean, you look at Manhattan and everybody lives in an apartment building, and you know, there are millions of families with little children, but there are facilities, there are parks, there are things to do.
Well, let me ask,
and that
Brad,
doesn't exist.
when you let's look. I'm sure you're familiar with every nook and cranny on the map in these areas, right? So let me give you an example of an area. Right next to the National Art Gallery, right to the south of the National Art Gallery, Hospital Lane. Right. Okay, and there's a little enclave in the back there, behind the what is that, Bethel Baptist? I think. Which one is Bethel Baptist on the northern side? Right, one of the churches. Right. Okay, and there are a lot of houses back there that you would never know of. Same thing with the Fort Hill. Okay, where Jackson Burnside's parents live, etc. What did your group see as the potential for those areas to become resettled, so to speak?
One of the things we found, and people might find this surprising, is we don't have high enough densities. We need to get more people into these communities. So oftentimes you'd think of an area, you know, being overcrowded, people on top of people. Really, we're not maximizing the use of the land. A lot of the homes you see in those areas are your traditional kind of single-family homes, single-story residences. For a city, and especially when we're talking about New Providence, which has limited land available for future development, we really need to be increasing the density. And if you look at the future population projections as well. I believe I can look in here really quick, but an area like Baines and Grand Sound, just kind of projecting forward to the year 2040, you're going to need housing for an additional 5,000 or so people.
In those communities.
I mean, they have to go somewhere. The population is going to grow.
Right.
We need to put these people somewhere.
Right.
So really, when we talk about future development, we have to start thinking up.
Right.
And, I mean, what does this? How does this speak to gentrification? And what does that do to And what does that do to existing populations?
Right. One of the things we learned about was their creative solutions to get around these things. When you're talking about gentrification, and you think of future development, and the area becomes too expensive for the people that have traditionally lived there to continue to live there. We've seen examples from other cities where that's kind of tied into the
plan,
the plan and the development rights that the developer has. So, for example, if a developer or property owner has plans to, let's say, put a 2-story building, government or city planning agencies or whoever it needs to be has to say, well, actually, we want you to go up to 4 stories or 6 stories. 3 of those stories are going to be affordable housing for folks who already live in that area. From the outside.
How does that create some cultural issues though? Because
I think everyone's afraid of that. Yeah. And you think, okay, you're paying $500,000 for this brand new condo, and your neighbor is paying $75,000 for a space, and you don't want to mix with those people. And but I still think that there are possibilities that we have. If you go through Hay Street today, as to today, it will surprise you, because see, we don't look at things. We just drive through.
But if you go through Hay Street today, you will see houses that are actually almost mansion-like.
Yeah, there's some beautiful houses
Okay.
in those areas.
Right.
Very well kept.
And no one sees this. They just drive through and they say, "Oh, this," you know. But the reality is that you can have coexistence, okay? But we want to make sure that there are certain things, and I think this is what people are concerned about: crime, safety, aesthetic. How do you? If I were to say, and just to be very honest, when we, I think that we're only going to tackle this by being honest with each other. How do we change attitudes, okay, so that the people who live in these areas, who are coming to live in these areas, that these attitudes gel with the kind of planning you do? Because you could have this great plan about putting a park in an area, and then every day it's full of garbage. Mm-hmm. So how does a plan address that?
You got to be creative and give the people, obviously, who live there some incentive. Mm-hmm. If my livelihood is tied to my neighborhood being clean, I'm going to make sure the place stays clean. When we were in kind of Saxon's Village, I found the place, certainly there are pockets that were filthy, I'm not going to lie, but there are parts that were beautiful. Beautiful homes. There's that staircase that goes up, I guess, to the fort.
Yeah.
And there's some homes nearby. Really great looking places. I didn't feel for a minute. We were there on 2 occasions in a week, several hours each time. Not for 1 second did I ever feel.
Ed Fields here, along with Javon Moss, Brett Latchley from the Office of the Prime Minister's. He's a program manager down there with the Urban National Development Plan. You got a lot of titles, man. You got a lot of names. Yeah. And Javon
Planning Unit.
Yeah. Urban. What is it?
Economic Development and Planning Unit.
There you go. Yeah. And Javon Moss, he's executive director. Everyone has a little title. Only me and Erica don't have titles. Listen, I think one of the things as a small island nation, and when we always compare ourselves to these places like Singapore, etc., and we see this kind of, we travel and we see these idyllic type communities. They're not perfect, but they have a cultural flair. They've got the restaurants, the foods, the artistic creativity going on. What seems to me is, and Erica said it off air, is community leadership. We had Renard Henfield in here. I don't know if you know him, Brad. He's with R. Carmichael. Okay. In fact, I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you this because I got this. I'm going to give you this because this is the program. One of the people you should look up. And what they have done is essentially the people in that area, 60,000 residents, not all are involved at this point, but they have decided that they're going to do some things for themselves. Okay? How does the IDB, the Office of the Prime Minister, somehow incentivize or encourage or identify people who will come forward as community leaders? This gentleman, along with his folks, have come forward and decided this is what we're going to do. So they have all these programs and after-school programs and things going on that no one is even aware of for the most part, although it's growing in popularity and awareness, I should say. How do we encourage that, Brett? And does the IDB plan speak to that, or do they have this cookie-cutter thing that they think they can come into the Bahamas and they've experienced success in 50 other countries, but they don't know our nuances?
No, I think, everyone recognizes that's a challenge. You have to find a way to incentivize people to step up and take the lead. The way that happens, I don't think I can say how exactly you do that. Obviously, money talks for a lot of people. One of the things you may be aware of, there are a lot of tours that, operate downtown and they don't go much further than kind of the crest of the hill. If there was some reason for those tours to go further, over the hill, right. Then people in those communities realize, hey, people are coming around, they're spending money. Let me fix up my place and get a piece of the action.
Does the IDB and the development plan speak to, and I know there may be a boogeyman for the central government to talk about in terms of local government, but does it speak to community I guess that's a good word. Community organizations. Does it speak to that?
To an extent, definitely. When I think of kind of the family island work we've done, especially in Andros, which I'm pretty familiar with. There you definitely see community leaders come out. Those tend to be folks who have some economic interest. They're the small lodge owners, the tour operators who really are willing to take the charge and take the lead.
Because it impacts them.
Because it impacts them. So in a situation like that, it's pretty easy to figure out who are the folks you wanna get in the room,
right,
and get them on board.
So maybe because we're talking about over the hill mostly here. Maybe because there's a kind of diminished level of economic activity that you don't tend to get so many people coming forward because there's no economic impact.
And one of the things you're having over the hill is a lot of folks actually don't own the places that they're living in. I think that's one of the things we've seen is kind of the land tenure issue in the Bahamas is pretty significant. So when people are just renting, that creates a whole different attitude because this isn't really their place. They could pick up and move and go somewhere else.
Right. So there's no sense of ownership.
Right. So they don't have that sense of ownership. So I think that's where government has to play a role. One of the things in the National Development Plan we were looking at is how do you maybe change the tax structure? So maybe something like real property tax
stays in the community,
and it really maybe it increases over time if you're not developing your property or if your property is run down. Maybe you need to pay a higher tax.
Well, this is if I could speak to this, Javon, when we talk about the business improvement district that we've been trying to promote through the government, which is a portion of the property tax that is collected to downtown from downtown entities are essentially reallocated to the downtown governance, so to speak, which deals with things like trash collection, security issues, lighting, things like that, but it's funded. But I can tell you this, Brett, and I say this because I'm sure you have some influence in the planning process, is that the DNP is actually a very good model of not so much, what it is a model of how other entities can coexist with government, get things done without government have to vote. So in other words, Pompey Square is a classic example. It was done with a public-private partnership built, and it is managed through mostly private sector funding, but it is managed, okay? Same thing with the Marlborough Square area. And what is happening is government has seemingly been willing to cede off that responsibility by allowing or not getting in the way of the Downtown Nassau Partnership doing certain things without actually having to go through some formal process. So putting down new benches, there's no process. You just order the benches, you put them down. Pardon?
You cut the bureaucracy.
Yeah. But it's all toward, the other day, Javon, there's a building there right opposite the Hilton. It was a stone building. I don't know if you noticed that little stone building used to be a convenience store.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was a big eyesore. So we put together and we put up some lattice in the window spaces so that vines can grow on it. So it looks more, acceptable. So there's all these things that can be done, but people have to find and feel that they can do them, and then they have to have funding. So, with that in mind, I just, Javon, what else is,
I think
because we're going to close up here. We got 2 minutes.
I think you guys touched on a huge issue that we always have in development, which is ownership. And even in downtown, I still feel like one of the things that will help people to look at downtown in a positive light is if they looked at it as something that we own. It's ours. I mean, and that's the citizens that I'm talking to. Everybody thinks downtown is somebody else's. When you go to New York City, when you go to, any of these cities that have been developed, the citizenry have taken on the fact that this city belongs to us and it represents us. And when we do that, it's no longer somebody else's fault. It's we have to take ownership with anything that we complain about. It's for us to resolve.
It's the old saying about transforming from, it used to be the slogan of our show, transforming from being subjects to being citizens, and that's where the ownership comes in. Sorry to my friend who wanted me to talk more about parking about downtown. I didn't get to that, but like Javon said, there's going to be a lot of parking, but it's a big issue, and it's not just about taxis. There's a whole lot of other issues, and maybe we can continue this conversation and get more specific about those type of things. Mr. Lashley, Mr. Moss, thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
You know, if it all pans out, it's exciting stuff. You know, and you young fellows will lead the charge, as I say. Kendrick, you okay? You look like you're dying over there. All right, we'll be back on Thursday. We'll give you some water. He's having a little cough attack. We'll be back on Thursday. Thank you for coming, Erica, thank you.
Thank you.